How's it going, miners? Today we're going to be going over a quick fix on your Mini-DOGE Miner. Specifically, we're going to look at how to swap out that burnt power supply unit. Let's get into it. If your miner has been on the fritz, or if you're here for just some tech know-how, you're in the right place. We're focusing on a tricky part, the 6-pin PCIe connector. Plus, I'll walk you through a little roadblock I faced with soldering and how I creatively solved it. Stay tuned to see how it's done. So here are some of my Mini-DOGE miners that recently the power supply gave out. It's not uncommon, especially with prolonged use, but the good news is it's easy to replace if you have the right parts. These 6-pin connectors, usually the issue is just the plastic part on it, the header, melted. These can easily be found online and replacement parts can be around like 70 cents. With these mini miners making around that per day, don't miss out on profit. To start, you'll need a Phillips head screwdriver. This is so that you can take apart the casing of the ASIC miner itself. Next, if you have any damage to your PCIe6 pins, you can go ahead and solder them off. But if your issue is just with the melted plastic, I highly recommend just using some pliers to pull it off. And lastly, you'll need the 6-pin PCIe casing. This is where the power will plug into. Before we start, a quick safety note. Always unplug your Mini-DOGE miner before you begin any repairs. And to avoid damaging your components, make sure you ground yourself. Static electricity can be a real killer for electronics. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started by replacing this 6-pin connector. You can actually see that we have a little bit of something left over. This was one of the pins from the power supply unit. So let's go ahead and take that out. Perfect, there we go. Next up, we'll need that Phillips head screwdriver, and we can start removing the 4 screws on the back. And if we flip it over, we can go ahead and start taking out the screws holding the fan in place. Let's go ahead and do that now. Now the back will lift up once we have the 4 screws out. But the miner itself won't actually slide out until we unscrew the front, which is holding the fans in place. And now with all the fans off, our board should just slide right out. And now, just so I have a little bit more room, I'm just going to slide this Ethernet port off. And this is just so that I can get a better grip on the PCIe6. And it makes it really easy if you want to go ahead and solder it off right there. I did try to solder for the example of this video, but my pick didn't grip properly, making it hard to solder effectively. I got my pick off of Amazon a few years ago for like $15, so if you have a better soldering kit, it might work for you. But since soldering didn't work, I decided to pull off the plastic housing of the damaged connector and replace it with a new one. The plastic housing of the burn-up one was so hard to get off. The burnt part just kind of crumbled away, so I wasn't able to get like a good grip on it to just pull it all off in one. But you can see after a few minutes, I was able to get pretty much all the plastic bits cleared away. For the replacement part, the pins will go through the backside, and you can see the exposed pins on the board now. And this is where we're going to go ahead and put the new casing on. How I did this to start was I lined everything up and then just kind of hammered it into place a little bit with the pliers that I had. Once it was fitted on and I could see all the pins going through their designated holes, what I did was, using some fine tip pliers, I was able to kind of apply pressure to the back of the pin and the front of the heading, pinching them together so that the pin would slide into the casing. After finagling with it for a little bit, I was able to see that all 6 of the pins were at least halfway through the casing. This is what you should aim for, so that when you plug the male PCIe connector in, it has something to kind of latch onto. So now that we're done with the installation, let's go ahead and put back together the ASIC miner. For this, we'll want to make sure that the fans are facing down with their sticker up, meaning that the airflow is going to come from outside, blow through the miner, and to the exhaust. You can double check this. On the fans, there is the airflow indication. Then in the metal casing, there is a groove. You'll want to make sure the board lines up with that groove, and then slide the miner into place. You might have to adjust the fans, kind of wiggling them back and forth to get the miner all the way back into place. You can see here, just one of the fans is a little bit off, so let's go ahead and try to wiggle them just so we can get it flush and pushed up. Now we can go ahead and add the metal wiring back on for the fan to hold it into place. This is going to be the 4 larger screws that we pulled out initially. And once the fans are back in place, we can go ahead and put the back lining on. This is held into place with the 4 shorter screws. We'll want to make sure that the Ethernet port and the power port are lined up appropriately. Now that everything is back together, it's time to test. On my F2Pool account, you can see that we have 11 miners online right now, along with the 4 miners that are dead that power supply unit burnt up. In this guide, of course, I only showed 1 of the ASIC miners being repaired, but my goal is to have all 4 of these guys back online, and I have 3 other PCI pins coming in the mail shortly. The miner that we just fixed, we can go ahead and set up now. We'll plug the Ethernet in, along with the power supply. And right now you can see the power indicator is showing red. Let's give it a few minutes just to go through the initializing phase, and we should hopefully see this guy turn green any second now. And there we go. Let's go ahead and give it a few minutes before we check F2Pool. I found that there's around like a few minutes sync time between them. And switching over to F2Pool now, we can see that we have 12 miners online. And that's it. A quick, easy power supply replacement for the Mini-DOGE Miner. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what repairs or guides you want next. Thanks for watching.